We've reached our final induction of the evening. So let's turn our attention to the screen as we induct Johnny Clyde Copeland.
Johnny Copeland was one of a bevy of blazing guitar slingers to emerge from the vibrant 3rd Ward of Houston, Texas, and one of the city's most powerful singers as well. Establishing himself with a series of blues and soul singles beginning in 1958, he attained national prominence in the 1980s, recording blues albums for Rounder Records. His daughter Shemekia has followed in his footsteps by winning multiple blues music awards.
Join me in welcoming to the stage John Hahn, award-winning songwriter and producer, longtime manager of Shemekia Copeland, and dear friend to the Copeland family.
I can't tell you how pleased and proud I am to be here tonight on behalf of Shemekia, and to let all of you know she's incredibly grateful to the foundation that's chosen to recognize her dad with its highest honor. She's thrilled beyond belief. It's also happened at an especially poignant time, since on Christmas Eve, Shemekia gave birth to Johnny's grandson, Johnny Lee Copeland, named after tonight's honoree. I've just signed little Johnny to a 10-year contract at 20%. Those of you who know Shemekia know how incredibly proud she is of her dad. Every CD she's ever made has included one of his songs. So you also know it's absolutely killing her not to be here tonight. But she has a show in Lafayette, Louisiana booked a year ago, and it couldn't be canceled. But she taped a message for all of us tonight. Let's take a look.
Hi everybody, I am so sorry that I am not there with you to share in this wonderful evening. Let me first thank the Blues Foundation for giving my father this honor. He was a proud man. He truly loved the blues, and this would have meant the world to him as it does to me. I want to congratulate all the recipients, especially Mavis. I love you, Mavis. You inspire me every day to do what I do. Right now, I'm in Lafayette, Louisiana, doing a show. I didn't feel right to cancel it, and I know you guys understand because it's killing me not to be there with you this evening. I know you guys know my father as a great blues man, but my father was just a great man in general. He was so kind and so giving to all of his friends. People always ask me, what happened to this guitar? What happened to that guitar? Well, the truth is, he pretty much gave it all away because if he had a friend in need or anyone that needed something, he would make sure they had it because he knew the importance of being able to perform and go out on the road. And he was actually even kind to me because when I was growing up and I first started out in the business, my dad said to me, he said, "Oh, Shemekia, can you come out on the road and help me with these gigs?" He was having his heart surgery and going through all the surgeries at that time. And he made it seem like I was doing him a favor, but really he was doing me the favor by sharing his stage with me and allowing me to start my career at the time. I am so grateful to him for that. My father's doctor was Dr. Oz. Yep, the famous Dr. Oz. And I remember doing shows and having Dr. Oz be there, watching him and supporting him and everything. And I remember him saying to me, "Oh my God, you're just like him. You sing like him. You have his phrasing." And I said, absolutely. I pretty much stole everything from my dad. And anyone who's seen me, they pretty much know that. So I just want to say that he was, let me tell you another story. I remember Ruth Brown, she was telling me that she was stuck up in Harlem and couldn't find her way home. My dad just sort of magically appeared and brought her home. And then 20 years later, well, maybe probably even 30 years later, I was on my way to the Blues Music Awards, my very first at the time. I had no clothes, I had no nothing. My father had passed away, and I had no clue what I was going to wear. And Ruth Brown went into her closet and took out pretty much everything and put it in a box and said, "Here, you take this, because your father was so good to me, and this is me repaying you because of his kindness." So that's a good story about how my father really was. But at some point, I know you guys have to have dinner, so let me just say this by quoting one of my father's songs. Ain't nothing greater than a man but a greater man, and my father was truly a great man. I would like to thank the foundation again for honoring him. I want to thank John Hahn for never forgetting his friend, and my mom, who had to put up with 2 blues artists in the house at one time. I love you, Mom. I'm sorry I'm not with you. I know as long as I'm around, the blues is gonna live. And I want to introduce you to my latest contribution, my little Johnny Lee. Hey, sweet boy. Say hi to everybody. Say hi. Hello. Long live the blues. Thanks, everybody. Say bye, Johnny.
Great. I get to follow Johnny Lee. Johnny Copeland was a star who shined so hot and so bright, he had to burn out too soon. He performed with such passion and intensity that he wore out his heart, forcing Dr. Oz to perform a transplant, giving Johnny a second one. He wore that one out too. Before he died, Johnny had performed for Kings in Africa. In '81, he won a Handy Award for Copeland Special. In '83, the foundation named him Entertainer of the Year. And in '87, Johnny won a Grammy Award for Best Traditional Blues Recording, Showdown, with his Hall of Fame peers now, Albert Collins and Robert Cray. But perhaps the best barometer of a bluesman's talent are not the awards that he's won, but rather what his fellow musicians think of them. When I was producing a CD called Flying High with Johnny, I approached Dr. John about playing on it. And as we all know, ain't nobody hipper than Mac. He looked at me and said in his New Orleans drawl, "I'd go any place, any time to play with Johnny Clark." Stevie Ray Vaughan felt the same way, appearing on one of Johnny's albums and having Johnny guest on one of his own. And years later, I had a chance to talk about Shemekia with Keith Richards, who hadn't yet heard of Shemekia, but the coolest Stone said, if she's Johnny Copeland's daughter, she has to be great. Now, thanks to this induction into the Hall of Fame, future generations are going to realize what the most discerning artists of my generation have always known, that there's never been a cooler, hipper, bluesier artist than my friend, the Texas Twister, Johnny Clyde Copeland. It's a great honor and a privilege for me to induct him into the Blues Hall of Fame and to present this plaque to the woman who stood with him through his most glorious and his toughest moments. And when I say tough moments, this is a guy who had 8 open heart surgeries. Okay? I'd have dinner at his house up in Harlem, and you'd hear gunshots outside. They used to take my wife and I, practically escort us to a car to take us back at night. But yet in a neighborhood like that, this woman managed to raise 2 kids, neither of whom has ever touched a drug in their life, and both graduated from school and have both gone on to lead just incredible lives. I'm talking about Johnny's wife, Shemeka's mom, Johnny Lee's grandma, Sandra Lynn Copeland.
Good evening. It's been a pretty long night, huh? Guess who's hungry? There's a lot of things that I could tell you about my husband. The one thing I will say now is that he was crazy. He had the ability to make me laugh, and he drew people into him. It was always like a magnet. He would just bring you into his world, and he would keep you there. Anybody that knew him or didn't know him would still be a friend. You could talk to him on the street, you could talk to him in the bathroom, you could talk to him anywhere. I miss him. But I know he lives on because he gave me one of the greatest gifts a woman could have, and that's my daughter. She sings the blues because she knows the blues. She loves the blues. It'll never change. When she was born, my husband looked at me and said, she'll never do a thing in this world besides sing blues. That was my gift because he lives on through her and her music. I want to thank the foundation for giving him this honor. It's been a long time coming, but it got here. And I'm alive and well and very glad to be here. So for all of my family and for all of his fans, I want to say, we love you. Never stop loving the blues. Thank you.
We are done. For those artists who couldn't be here this year, let's hope they can make it back here next year. Good night.